There are moments in life when you realize that the person you've been walking past every single day holds more power to change the world than any headline, any politician, any celebrity ever could. I learned this truth on a rain-soaked Tuesday in November, standing outside a coffee shop in downtown Portland, watching a woman I'd never properly noticed before save a life without even knowing it. Her name was Margaret Chen, though I wouldn't learn that until much later. To everyone in the neighborhood, she was simply the lady with the cart. Every morning at 6:30, she'd appear on the corner of Morrison and 3rd with her small wooden cart, selling homemade dumplings wrapped in wax paper for $3 each. The cart was weathered, painted a fading red that had probably been bright once, decades ago. Margaret herself seemed equally weathered, somewhere between 60 and 80. It was impossible to tell. Her hands were wrinkled and spotted, her back slightly curved from years of labor, but her eyes were sharp and kind, missing nothing. I'd bought dumplings from her maybe twice in the 3 years I'd worked nearby. Not because they weren't good, they were incredible, but because I was always in a hurry, always important, always racing toward the next meeting, the next deadline, the next rung on whatever ladder I thought I was climbing. Margaret was part of the scenery, like the streetlights or the bus stops, present but invisible. I'm ashamed to admit it now, but it's true. On that particular Tuesday, I was having the worst month of my life. I'd just been passed over for a promotion I'd worked 3 years to earn. My girlfriend had moved out the week before, taking not just her things, but also the dog we'd adopted together. My mother had called from Ohio to tell me my father's cancer was back. I felt like I was drowning and every breath was a fight. I'd stopped at Margaret's cart that morning not because I wanted dumplings, but because I'd forgotten to eat for 2 days and my hands were shaking. "You look terrible," Margaret said bluntly, handing me the steaming package. Her English was accented but clear. "When you last sleep?" I laughed, a bitter sound. "What's sleep?" She studied me for a long moment, then pressed a second package into my hands. "No charge. You eat both. You too skinny." I tried to refuse. But she'd already turned to her next customer, a homeless man named Rick, who slept in the doorway of the abandoned storefront next to her spot. I'd seen him there 100 times, always wrapped in a grimy sleeping bag, usually talking to himself. Margaret greeted him like an old friend, asking about his night, handing him dumplings that I noticed she didn't charge him for either. Something made me stay that morning instead of rushing off. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the first genuine kindness someone had shown me in weeks. But I stood there in the drizzle, eating those dumplings, and I watched. A young mother with twin toddlers stopped at the cart. She was counting coins carefully, looking worried. Margaret glanced at the money, then at the kids. And somehow there were always enough dumplings. The price always worked out, even though I could see the math didn't add up. An elderly veteran with a walker stopped by, and Margaret called him Major with such respect that he stood straighter. A teenager who looked like she'd been crying got a dumpling and a paper napkin with something written on it in Chinese. Later, I learned it was a blessing. I started noticing Margaret after that, really noticing. She was there every single morning, rain or shine, snow or heat. Her cart became my breakfast stop, but more than that, it became the one stable thing in my chaos. While my career spiraled, while I packed up the apartment I'd shared, while I made weekend trips home to help my parents, Margaret was there. And slowly I began to see what she was doing. She wasn't just selling dumplings. She was holding the neighborhood together with thread so fine you could barely see it, but strong enough to catch people when they fell. There was Jonas, the construction worker who'd been laid off and was too proud to ask for help. Margaret hired him to repair her cart, paying him 3 times what the work was worth. There was Sarah, a single mom who worked 2 shifts and had no time to cook. Margaret always had extra dumplings at the end of the day, always at a price Sarah could afford. There was Devin, a kid who'd dropped out of high school and was heading down a dark path. Margaret gave him a job helping her prep in the mornings, teaching him her recipes, giving him something to wake up for. I watched her ecosystem expand. She knew everyone's names, everyone's stories, everyone's struggles. She knew when Mrs. Patterson's Social Security check was late, when Travis lost his job at the warehouse, when Amy's daughter got sick. And somehow, quietly, things worked out for people. Food appeared. Small amounts of cash got lent with no pressure to repay. Connections got made. Margaret knew everyone, and she was constantly introducing people who could help each other. "How do you do it?" I asked her one morning in February. My father had started a new treatment, and I was feeling cautiously hopeful for the first time in months. "How do you help so many people when you're just... you can't be making much money from this cart." Margaret smiled, wrapping dumplings with practiced efficiency. "I make enough. And I'm exactly enough. Everyone is exactly enough for someone. But don't you ever want more for yourself?" She considered this, her hands never stopping their work. "I had more once. Big house. Important job in Shanghai. Lots of money. My husband died. My daughter moved away. The house was empty but full of things. Things don't keep you warm at night. Things don't laugh at your jokes. Things don't need you." She gestured around at the morning crowd gathering. "These people? They need me. And I need them. This is more. You just don't see it yet." Then came the day everything changed. It was late April. One of those perfect spring mornings where the world feels like it might actually be okay. I was early for once, not rushing. I'd gotten the promotion after all. My boss had reconsidered. My father was in remission. I'd started dating again, taking things slow. Life was coming back together, and I felt lighter than I had in a year. I was waiting for my dumplings when I heard the screeching tires. A delivery truck taking the corner too fast on wet streets. And Rick, the homeless man, was stepping off the curb, lost in his own world, oblivious. The truck would have killed him. There was no question. But Margaret was already moving, dropping her ladle, lunging forward with a speed that seemed impossible for a woman her age. She grabbed Rick's jacket and yanked him backward with both hands just as the truck roared past, so close that the wind of it sent her cart crashing over, dumplings scattering across the wet pavement. For a moment, everything stopped. Rick was on the ground, crying. Margaret was on her knees beside him, breathing hard. The truck never even slowed. The driver probably never saw what almost happened. People were running over, shouting, asking if everyone was okay. But what I remember most is what Rick said. He was clutching Margaret's hand, tears streaming down his weathered face, and he kept repeating, "She saw me. She saw me. She always sees me." And it hit me then, the full weight of what I'd been witnessing for months. Margaret hadn't just saved Rick's life in that moment. She'd been saving it every single day, one dumpling at a time, by seeing him when the rest of the world looked away, by treating him like he mattered, because he did matter. They all mattered. I mattered. We were all connected by this one woman who'd figured out the secret that the rest of us kept missing. The neighborhood rallied after that. Someone started a fundraiser to get Margaret a new cart, and within 2 days it had raised $10,000. People came forward with stories, dozens of them, hundreds of them, about how Margaret had helped them through hard times. The local paper ran a feature. A restaurant owner offered her a partnership. Everything changed for her overnight. But Margaret? She took enough money to fix her cart and donated the rest to the homeless shelter. She declined the restaurant partnership. The next morning, she was back on her corner at 6:30, like always. "Why didn't you take it?" I asked, exasperated. "You could have retired. You could have had that house again, all those things." She laughed, that warm sound I'd come to love. "I have everything already. I have purpose. I have people who need me. I have you. You come every morning now, not running, not scared. You see me? That's the wealth, my friend. Being seen and seeing others. Everything else is just noise." I titled this story, Her, because I don't think I understood what that word really meant until I met Margaret Chen. Not just a pronoun, not just a designation. Her. The woman who stands in the gap. The one who shows up. The one who sees. We pass by 1,000 hers every day, people who are holding the world together, with small acts of kindness that seem invisible until you really look. They're the teachers who stay late, the nurses who remember your name, the neighbors who check on the elderly couple down the street, the strangers who help you when your car breaks down. Margaret taught me that you don't need a platform or power to change lives. You don't need wealth or recognition. You just need to see people, really see them, and show up every single day with whatever you have to give. My father's been cancer-free for 8 months now. I'm getting married next spring to someone I met in line at Margaret's cart. Actually, I learned to make dumplings. And twice a week, I help Margaret prep in the mornings before work. Devin, the kid she hired, just got his GED. Rick is in transitional housing and working part-time. The corner of Morrison and 3rd is thriving. And every morning at 6:30, there's Margaret with her red cart, feeding the neighborhood, seeing people, saving lives in ways both big and small. Sometimes I think about that rainy Tuesday when I first really noticed her, when I was drowning and she threw me a lifeline wrapped in wax paper. I was so focused on my own suffering that I almost missed the miracle happening right in front of me. The miracle of simple, persistent kindness. The miracle of being seen. The miracle of her. We all have the power to be a her, to be the one who shows up, who sees, who cares, when it would be easier not to. Margaret is just one woman with a cart, but she's holding up a corner of the world. And if enough of us learn to do the same, learn to really see each other, learn to give what we can from where we are with what we have, maybe we'd discover what Margaret already knows. That we're all exactly enough for someone. That being seen and seeing others isn't just wealth, it's everything. Every morning now, when I stop at that red cart, Margaret hands me my dumplings and asks how I'm doing. And I tell her the truth. Because I know she's really asking, I know she sees me. And that simple act of being seen, being known, being cared for, it saved my life as surely as she saved Rick's. That's the power of her. That's the power of all of us if we choose to use it.